what are the original texts that establish the foundations of Shrividya?
We can say that the older and more fundamental text of Shrividya sadhana tradition is the Vamakeshwara Tantra. This text is also recognized as an authoritative scripture in the Tripura Krama of the Kashmir Shivadvaita philosophy. And this work is more commonly known as Nitya Shodashikarnavam. The first 5 chapters, Adhyayas of Nitya Shodashikarnavam, deal with ritualistic procedures. The next 3 chapters, comprising nearly 400 verses, elaborate on the philosophical and doctrinal aspects of Shrividya. These last or the final 3 chapters are known by the name Yogini Hridayam. This section, which forms a part of the Vamakeshwara Tantra, serves as an earlier and foundational text that elucidates the philosophical and doctrinal dimensions of Sri Chakra, Sri Chakra Puja, and Shrividya Upasana. For the ritualistic worship practices known as Saparya Vidhis in Shrividya, encompassing puja, homa, and other associated rites, the authoritative texts include works such as the Parasuramakalpasutra, Shrividyarnava Tantra, and the Tripurarnava Tantra. However, in South India, the Parasuramakalpasutra gained greater prominence. And Parasuramakalpasutra is generally believed to have been composed in these parts. The Parasuramakalpasutra serves virtually as a digest of Shrividya Upasana system. It can be said that with the introduction of the Parasuramakalpasutra, the structure for the ritualistic worship of Sri Chakra got established. That is, as the ritual-based principal external practice, Bhahya Anusthana, within the fully developed Shrividya tradition. We can also see a great leap, or rather a quantum jump, made in the Parasuramakalpasutra towards a form of worship more aligned with the Vaidika system than the Tantrika system. In the sutra itself, we find the introduction of many Vedic mantras. To give you an example, the 31st sutra in the 3rd part of Parasuramakalpasutra reads like this: Tad bindubhihi Trishaha shirasi gurupadagam ishtva ardram jolati jyotirhamasmi jyotirjolati brahmahamasmi yohamasmi brahmahamasmi ahamasmi brahmahamasmi ahamevaham mam juhomi swaheti tad bindum atmanah kundalinyam juhuyat. Which means, having worshipped the revered Guru's padukas, that is the sacred sandals on the head thrice, with that bindu, one should offer that bindu into one's own kundalini by chanting Ardram Jolati Jyotirahamasmi, that is, the radiant light shines, moist and blazing. I am that light, the light shines, I am Brahman, I am that which I am, and indeed Brahman myself. I offer myself as an oblation into myself, Swaha. Like this. This Ardram Jolati Jyotirahamasmi mantra is from Taittiriya Aranyakam, and it also comes in Mahanarayanopanishad. I mentioned this just for an example. Since the Parasuramakalpasutra is composed in the sutra style, a concise and aphoristic format, Sri Umanandanatha, a disciple of the famous Sri Bhaskararaya, compiled an explanatory text titled Nityotsava Paddhati in AD 1775, summarizing the ritualistic procedures prescribed in the Parasuramakalpasutra. However, a later scholar, Sri Rameshwara Suri, who was another disciple of Sri Bhaskararaya, felt that Nityotsava failed to represent the true meaning of the Parasuramakalpasutra. So, consequently, in the year AD 1831, Sri Rameshwara Suri wrote a detailed gloss, vritti, elaborating on each sutra of the Parasuramakalpasutra, interpreting all predominantly tantric content through a Vedic lens. I shall just quote one statement by Sri Rameshwara Suri while commenting on the first sutra. Sarvatantranam Vedabhahyatvam Shanka Nirasah. That is, the doubt that all tantras are outside the Vedic authority is refuted. Thus, he boldly asserts that all tantras are included within the Vedic corpus and are not separate from it. While Shrividya Upasana originated from Shrikrama or Tripura Krama, which in turn has its roots in Shaiva Tantras, it was initially a purely tantric mode of worship. However, through meticulous reasoning and scriptural substantiation, Sri Rameshwara Suri refutes the notion that tantras are non-Vedic or opposed to the Vedas. Instead, he upholds the legitimacy within the Vedic framework. One of the fundamental proofs he presents is the rejection of the claim that tantras are exclusively meant for those who are Shrudipatha Galitaha, those who have fallen away from the Vedic path. He clarifies this by distinguishing the specific usage of tantra in certain contexts as referring to particular traditions such as the Shaiva Agamas. Shrudipatha Galitanam iti Sudagita Vachanam Tatratyam Tantrapadam Tantra Vishesham Tacha Tantram Shaivagama iti Prasiddham. That is, the phrase Shrudipatha Galitanam in the Sutta Samhita refers specifically to a particular tantra, and that tantra is well known as the Shaiva Agamas. So, this statement reinforces that the exclusion of certain tantric traditions from the Vedic fold is not a wholesale rejection of tantra itself, but applies only to specific non-Shrividya related traditions. Further, he cites authoritative texts such as Agastya Samhita to show that sectarian tantric traditions like Pashupata, Kapalika and Kalamukha have restrictions on Vaidikas practicing them. Pashupate cha Kapale tatha Kalamukhaishu cha Adhikaro Vaidikanam nasti munishwaraha. In the Pashupata, Kapalika and Kalamukha traditions, Vaidikas have no authorities, none whatsoever, O sages. That is the meaning of this verse. However, this restrictions does not extend to Shrividya, which remains fully accessible to Vaidikas. Thus, rather than being excluded from the tantric practices, Vaidikas are affirmed to have full access to Shrividya Upasana within the Vedic tradition. Sri Rameshwara Suri conclusively establishes that Shrividya, far from being non-Vedic, is an integral part of the Vedic tradition, deeply rooted in both Shruti and Smriti. Today, in South India, Nityotsava, along with its explanation regarding puja procedures, has been widely accepted as the primary authoritative interpretation of the text. Many Guru Mandalas have also developed their own procedural structures for Sri Chakra Navavarana Puja based on this work. These tracts or guidebooks are widely followed and hold authoritative status within the respective lineages of those Guru Mandalas. A few additional rigs from Rigveda or other Vedic mantras have also been incorporated into these procedures to align Sri Chakra Navavarana Puja with a more Vedic style of worship. Now, Is Shrividya something that was filtered out from Kashmira Shikrama and developed into a distinct path of sadhana? We cannot entirely deny that possibility either. We also do not know whether there were other foundational texts that established the authority of Shrividya. Because in these matters of a transcendental nature, it is the tradition handed down from masters to disciples that governs actual practice. When it comes to upasana, the transmission through the Guru Parampara, from Guru to Sishya, is the highest authority. Therefore, it is also difficult for us to definitely state which Guru Paramparas have evolved based on which foundational texts and how each of them has developed over time.